Hi everyone. Last night, my time, I wrote an email and sent it to my list and posted it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter about the roots of the chaos in 2020. And it examined a lot about how this has been building for thousands of years in a very practical way. And I've had feedback about that since, that it really made sense to a lot of people. And two of the keys of it were questions. Derek Isaac, a friend of mine, wrote to me and said, what are healthy ways to build healthy understanding and to build trust? And this morning I did an interview with another friend of mine who lives in Nicaragua, an American called Rebecca Comar. And she questioned me about it a lot in detail. And we discussed a lot of various things and that are associated with it and connected to it, and a lot of the background to it. What I'd like to do here is do a fairly concise, focused rundown on the roots of the chaos of 2020. Because I think there's so much, well, it's not that I think, I know that this is so much behind what is going on, and it's so easier with media and social media to be swept up in the froth rather than get deep into what's really happening and then bring that back to your own life, to your own family, to your own community, to your own business, to the people who matter in your life, to the people whose lives you influence, and you matter to them. So right at the bottom of the whole thing is that being alive in a human body matters to everybody, and everybody does matter. That's crucial. From first time human beings showed up as human beings way back before our recorded history, we have been looking at fundamental issues. You might call them questions we've been examining, and I'm going to go into those in a moment. But first, and because all of them, over thousands and thousands of years of human history, all those fundamental questions are coming to a head right now in 2020. And they will be leading to some exceptional times ahead of us in the rest of this decade. Now, you can make it exceptionally good, or you can get hooked into resisting it and make it very difficult. And so that's why I want to address this, because there's no reason not to take care of all this investment that human beings have made in humanity, of which you now are a major part, because you exist now. As I often say to my clients, if you're alive now, you matter, no matter how significant or insignificant your life is, or significant your life is. The moment you really touch base with why you're here and who you are, what you're doing, and how to receive the support you need to do it, and start living that life, you become a vital seed to the future and a legend in your own times, and definitely in the future. Because they will be talking about what we're doing now, not the crazy stuff you see on the news or, in social media, but what actually is happening now. So why is chaos here so deeply? And I'm going to share with you just a few glimpses of the email I sent last night. And it's the roots of chaos, and that's a big tree, and you can imagine the roots of that tree. It's in Burleigh Heads in Queensland, in the park there. The roots of that tree are equally extensive underneath the ground. Now, in any new reality, when it's born, chaos plays a crucial role. I mean, just look at birth. It's chaotic. It's not pretty. It's not neat. You know, it's messy. Chaos is a precursor to the manifestation of any new solution. And that's crucial, any new solution. Not because we've got to struggle. And here's the most crucial bit. It is because chaos allows you to access the dimension of creativity. Now, sounds great, but the dimension of creativity can be very scary stuff. Why? Because creativity, in the dimension of creativity, anything is possible. Now, you're seeing the chaos creating things that people didn't think were possible. But also it means we have to face that anything is possible. The very best and the very worst. And facing that, for decades now in psychology, and we'll come to that in a moment, people have done shadow work, particularly on the dark shadow. Not so much yet on the light shadow, you know, the brilliance that we're keep in the dark, you know, how brilliant we really are. But we've definitely looked at how devastatingly evil, I suppose is the word, how bad we can get as human beings. Look at the last century or two and over thousands of years as well. And to be in the realm of creativity where anything's possible, which means you can create, truly create a world that we've only spoken of or dreamed about in legends. I'm not saying become Wonder Woman or Superman or anything like that. I'm talking about a realm where it's safe to love and it's safe to be powerful, where win-win truly exists, where differences are not only celebrated, they're actively turned into assets. And you'll see as we go through the questions in a few minutes, how deep this goes and how profound it is. Because many human beings have sacrificed their whole life, many of them over hundreds of years, to answer just one of these questions. And now they're all coming together at the same time. And then I'll look at what the solution is and the practical things you can do to deal with it. But the first practical thing is, if you're going to enter the realm where anything is possible, I mean, people have been talking about this for decades now, ever since I was a young man, with the hippies and with all the personal development movement and stuff like that. But if you're going to really adopt a stance and really incorporate that in you and really live from that place, then anything is possible, and you have to be able to face the negative possibilities. And then this is why conscious choice is so important now. And then consciously choose, anything's possible, consciously choose the realities that truly suit you. And as a humanity, consciously choose a world where it is safe to love and it's safe to be powerful. You don't get attacked for having different opinions. In fact, people celebrate them and then look at how we can work this together, resolve our differences and turn it into something exceptional. Now, that's the first thing. It's a scary place to truly enter the domain of creativity. And if you don't acknowledge that it's going to challenge you, that your habits are going to want to go back to somewhere safe, then it's still going to stay in the realm of fantasy and dream out there somewhere. Now, once you come to terms with that, then it's important to recognize that chaos has manifested throughout history. But in this year, we've got a unique opportunity. You and I can learn to work with chaos more elegantly. And that requires, well, there's 4 steps, but 3 are really crucial. Because if you're going to work with chaos more elegantly, you want to create change in the realm of creativity. Real change, change that matters, change that works, which is why people have been looking at these questions for so long. So the first thing you need to do is really recognize what's up, what's happening. Secondly, acknowledge it for what it is. And thirdly, forgive yourself and forgive others. Because if you don't take those first 3 steps, change cannot happen. That's why entering the realm of creativity and you see what you're truly capable of, both exceptional and terrible, forgiveness is so important, not because you're a bad person, but it's like, I could have gone down those roads. Maybe I did at some point in this life, or who knows when. And I've put myself in a situation where anything's possible. But I don't want to choose anything. I want to decide what's correct for me, what's healthy, what's empowering for me, and then extend that to other people and support them in doing that. And without that forgiveness, it's like you can't let go of the obsession with the, I know I could be a millionaire, a billionaire, but I could be living on the streets in poverty or in a hospital with COVID somewhere. That's a reality I could create, but I choose not to. Not out of some, I'm a good person, rah-rah, new age thing. It's like, no, I deliberately, consciously choose that that's not a reality that's healthy for me or the people that I love or the world around me. And I'm not going to make a massive stand about it. I'm just going to get on with what I have chosen to do. That's real change. So let's look at what's up. Now, the questions I'm going to go into, and I'll show you in a moment, they've been asked throughout human history. These are fundamental things people have really asked about, examined, explored, looked into. And they're not just information. Please don't just take this as another bit of information on the internet. Because as I said before, many human beings, just like you, have given their lives over thousands of years to find answers to even just one of these questions, sometimes several. So let's have a look at the questions. I'll just share with you. Okay. Now, the first 3, there's 11 in total, but the first 3 people have tackled ever since early times, and we still need to now. We still need to tackle these questions now. They're at the root of the root. These are the 3 fundamentals. And you'll notice in indigenous cultures, I live now in Thailand, but I'm actually now in Australia, locked down because of COVID. And I'm born in Australia. And the Indigenous culture here, the Australian Aboriginals, have these first two down. I mean, of all the races I've seen in the world, and I've been with several Indigenous cultures and lived in Asia and America and Europe and Australia, these people have really nailed those first two. And that's what, until we arrived, the Europeans arrived, that's what kept them so successful in Australia over such a long period of time, 50,000 years. So the first question is, what is the role and value of tradition? Now that's a beauty, because I'm not talking about, you know, what my grandparents did, and we all celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or, you know, Buddha's birthday. Tradition is far deeper than that. It goes right to the core of who you are internally as a spiritual being in a human body, throughout our known history, our unknown history, and way back beyond that as a consciousness, wherever in this universe or beyond you've lived, because that forms part of your tradition. Each of us have that. Most people don't examine that more than a little bit of ancestry. I've been blessed enough in this lifetime to really look into it in depth, in real depth. And when you do that at more than an intellectual or just an imaginative level, you'd certainly have to use your imagination, because it's a bit difficult to go there physically. But when you do that in depth, it gives you such a depth of trust in yourself and such a sense of knowledge and understanding about who you are and why you're here now. That's all I'll say about it, because I don't want to give a lecture on each question, but that's a really deep one if you get the opportunity to do that. And I'm happy to help people if that's what they truly want. Now, the second one is, what is our relationship with nature and the earth? That's profound. Now, that relationship has obviously changed for most of the world over time. With the Australian Aboriginals, until we came, their relationship with nature and the earth and with their tradition was profoundly grounded. That's all I can say. You know, we were a hell of a shock to their system, because they'd got this, these two, they got really nailed from their perspective. But what is our relationship when we're close to the earth, when we're involved with nature, but also when we deny it, when that's taken away from us? That's all part of the relationship. Same thing with tradition. You can learn your tradition, but what happens when that's taken away or denied or pulled down or pushed out of the way? That has massive impact. Same when we have a close relationship with nature and the earth, when that's taken away, how do we get back and heal that and take it to a whole new level? Same with tradition. And then the third question, how do we evolve our civilization in a way that works best for all involved? That's been going on for all of recorded history and before that. Because what we call civilization, people coming together in a really fairly large grouping, more than a tribe, and creating a whole bunch of people living together, originally in cities and towns and whatever, and then moving forward further into communities and countries, cultures. How do we evolve our civilization in a way that works best for all involved? Now, that is really core at the moment. We're evolving as a civilization, and now a global civilization with many cultures, many traditions, many different connections with the earth, some healthy, some unhealthy. How do we evolve the best and the worst of them so that we create something fresh, something new, something that can hold the future that we're capable of living now, where we're not driven by emotion, but we use emotion as an awareness and rely on emotional clarity as well as mental clarity and instinctive understanding, mental understanding, instinctive understanding. We use those, that not only each one of them, but all three together. So that has been going on for thousands of years, and it's still relevant. It's still right at the root of what we're going through now, and all the stuff that's coming up, and all the craziness and the chaotic things in politics, in personal relationships, in clashes of cultures, clashes of political systems, pollution, evolution, going to the moon, going to Mars, going wherever, stepping out into the stars in the future. It's right at the core of that. But for the last 1,500 years, historically, we've gone into much more depth about 8 different components of that. And the last one is the one that it's all boiling down to now, but it contains all of the previous ones. And these are the questions that, I won't go into this now, but you can go through historically throughout at least Western history, which is the one I know a lot about. You can see those stages kick in. Each question represents a couple of hundred years of tradition, of culture in Western society as they tackled each of these questions to some degree, at least stirred them up. Even like kids, got them wrong, really messed it up, but that's how we learn. So what are these? The first one is, what is culture? Culture is not civilization. Culture is something that grows within civilization and to some degree, even before it. But it really takes off when you have civilization. And it's a healthy culture if it's got strong traditions and it's connected to its environment and the fact that we're human beings. But we have culture, and there's such a movement to destroy it at the moment. What happens when you have culture? What is that good for? How does it limit you? What happens when you lose it? How do you heal that and bring back a healthier culture without denying the previous one and the benefits that it brought and the wisdom that it brought? So this is something that people have been examining over the last 1,500 years, big time. West, East, Africa, Americas, you name it. And with that comes the next question. Well, culture is made up of male and female elements, men and women, things that are more masculine, things that are more feminine. So the next question is, what is the relationship between male and female? And that's fundamental. It's fundamental because they're two. I was talking to Rebecca today and she said, well, they're different. And I said, yes, the answer doesn't have to be that massively complicated, because resolving differences is an incredibly, incredibly powerful thing when it's done effectively, and it's incredibly destructive when it isn't. Going to war over differences, it's happened all over the world. Men and women in battles in relationships. I go shopping just here in Australia and I see it all the time. People unhappily in a relationship or not realizing their true and greatest potential within a relationship, and empowering the other person and supporting the other person in doing that. It's still a rare commodity. Then comes, okay, male and female, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. The next question is, well, what is the role of religion? Is it the poison of the masses? No. Can it poison the masses? Sure. Pizza can turn into a poison if you have too much of it. What is the role of religion? Which again is part of our formalized, in a civilization, in a culture, expression of our relationship, of our spirituality, which is our relationship with the divine. That's a profound thing. You just can't tear it down and wipe it out, because you're still going to have a relationship with the divine. And so in some way, each person, each culture, each civilization needs to at least give that a formal structure. That is empowering. That's the key. So what is the role of religion? How can it be used to empower and all that good stuff? And then what followed after that is people on some levels in some societies rejected religion. They said, well, they replaced it with ideals, and then it became, what is the role of ideals? And you had these centuries or two where people were just massively into ideals. And it still continues. It's still important, because that's important to culture, it's important to civilization. And civilization has a place on this earth because working together and co-creating is part of our long-term tradition. And if we're going to be idealistic, we're going to work in the realm of imagination. So how do we engage imagination in a meaningful way? Not a deluded, not a crazy, but in a really meaningful way, so that we set our imagination free. This is going to be so crucial to the future. And what is the right use of our will? Because once you have an active imagination that's alive and vibrant and living, it's as real, if not more real, than this. And I mean that seriously. I'm not saying it's better than, I'm not saying this is a delusion. I'm saying it's alive, vibrant, active. You can draw upon that energy, just like the realm of creativity. How do you set that free? But once you do that, you've got the ability to do whatever you will with it. So what is the correct role of will? What is the right use of will? People have used willpower in everything from conquering countries and devastating the world to satisfy their own will, to using it in seminars to try and get people to force something to happen that everybody agrees is good. Whether that's what will work for you or not. Right? So what is the right use of our will? Our will is a power. It's called will power. It comes from what drives us as a personality. Our will is male energy empowered by the feminine. That, don't start me. This video will be way too long if I start up on that. So now that you've got imagination and will, which is giving you access to real power, how over the last 100, 150 years, maybe a little longer, we've come across this thing, we've created this science called psychology. Because it's like, now that people obviously have imaginations, and we've got logic, and we've got will, and that creates a psychology. How do we deal with that? How do we heal the ruptures in our psychology that occur? The separation between heart and mind that can happen, between male and female, between love and hate. How do we deal with all those emotions that we're capable of? You know, this is crucial because we are capable emotionally of pretty much the best and the worst, from love to absolute utter despair, hopelessness, emptiness. I saw a program last night on TV about the last days of Hitler from people who actually spent their time with him, who survived in those last days. I mean, it's very sobering. The absolute hopelessness, despair, the rage, the negative energies that he turned upon the world, but then eventually they turned back on him. And he destroyed himself, literally took this opportunity and ended it out of fear. That degenerated into pure hopelessness. So we're capable of that. It's part of our psychology. So how do we deal with that, heal it, and empower our psychology? Huge question over the last 150 years. Science and psychology and you know, even alternative things really deep. Now, people had ways of doing that in the past through stories, through initiations, through legends, through myth. But we got really stuck into the practical science of it. And the last question that all of this is boiling down to and is really coming to a head right now is how do we develop, and I'll show this to you so you can see it as I anchor it. How do we develop healthy understanding? Understanding. Even the U is like a cauldron. Healthy ability to receive understanding. All of this, our tradition, our relationship with nature and the earth, what is real healthy civilization, culture, how do male and female energies and people work together? Where does religion and ideals fit? How do we use our imagination and set it free in a healthy way? How do we exercise will in a way that will empower and deal with and heal and empower our whole psychological makeup? Well, that's a lot to understand. It's a huge amount. And it's all coming to a head in 2020. And it's going to unfold over the next decade and probably decades beyond that. In fact, certainly decades beyond that. And we're the seed planters. You and I, anyone watching this. And it includes a healthy understanding of each other and how different we are. and how to resolve our differences and turn them into assets. And that's what it all boils down to. We've got all these things we've been questioning, and now, I mean, when I said we are powerful, we don't often feel that way. I mean, in our most ordinary times, or our bad times, or our crazy times, that's the last thing we feel. But we're not trapped by it anymore. And we have looked at all of those questions and made a lot of mistakes. And now we're powerful and strong enough to be vulnerable and gentle with these issues and begin to plant the seeds of truly resolving those. That's a future worth living for. A future when those questions are resolved, not so that we've finally made it, but so that we've created a civilization on this earth that honours our tradition, that's worth living, that is a celebration of life and what it is to be human and what it is to be a consciousness experiencing a physical gift of experience, and how all that despair, which we've fiercely explored, can be then turned into incredible love. And what would that look like? A civilization where it is safe to love. You're not going to be attacked. And I don't mean loving in a nice way. I mean authentic love, fierce, deep, meaningful love, passionate love. Loving because that's who you are, not because it just entertains and passes the time. So and it's safe to be powerful, to really show up as who you are and bring that to the table and work with other people who know their power, who share their power, who gift their power to what we are creating together. You know, that's what's been behind what Dan and I are doing. You know, start with personal power, then bring that to the table and then share it. It's time we master our personal power, because we've got these massive questions that are all coming together that we don't have to answer all at once. We don't have to have it all figured out, because that's not the answer. The answers we're looking for are really practical. It's application. It's living it. It's when you know you've got the answers and you're enjoying the experience of living those and exploring them and developing them and taking them to new levels. So to answer Derek's question, what are some practical ways to develop healthy understanding? Well, first thing is to realize the key is trust. Trust is the core of the whole thing. See, the flow of history and global communication have brought together all of these questions now, and they've been planted, seeds have been planted over thousands of years, and they're ready to sprout and grow now and fulfill their true potential. That's why, you know, it's like spring has come and everyone's going, my God, there's all this stuff jumping out of the ground. What the hell is going on? It's spring. Is it messy? Is it turning the ground over? Do you have to weed? Yeah. But everything's coming to life now. Is that scary? Yeah. Is that exciting? Yes. Does that demand the very best of you? Absolutely. And a lot of us are struggling to cope with so much growth. But struggling to cope doesn't work anymore. I mean, there's tons of people out there doing it on every level, personally, politically, socially, struggling to cope with their Facebook posts and how people react to it, and blah, blah, blah. What does work is realizing the essence of the first 10 questions come down to that healthy understanding, including understanding each other. And the thing about healthy understanding, it works in the real world for everyone. Now, are you going to achieve that straight up? Very unlikely. But it does work for everyone. And we're planting the seeds of that being the case, not as an idealistic political system, but as a reality amongst human beings who live and work together in a way that's only been tried out a little bit in the past. Now, we talk about it a lot in 2020. We talk about it. And in many cases now, people are trying to enforce their version of it. The best approach, practical, is to find the answers within yourself. The answers to these questions lie within you, because you're part of the civilization, you're part of nature, you're part of this earth, you have a tradition. There's a culture where you thrive. There's ideals that work for you, etc., with all the question. And you find them within yourself, and also it's not on your own, but those answers are within you. But you also can find those answers with the help of others who demonstrate that they are trustworthy. Now that takes courage, because trust and trustworthiness are inherent in human beings, but they're rare, and our mind and its ideas about the way things should be don't trust them and often attack them. But it boils down to trust. And you need to discover and understand what trust and trustworthy mean in your life. First, learn to relax and breathe. If you can't relax and trust that your breath will come and then go and then come again, you don't have a foundation for trust. And it's really obvious that our mind ignores that on a regular basis. Regular is a nice understatement. You know, you are being loved. Life is giving you life, cleansing you and giving you more life. Cleansing you, giving you more life. I was there when my mother took her last breaths. Very close. I mean, closer than this screen. And I saw, it was sad, but it was beautiful beyond belief. One of the most unforgettable experiences of my life. So if you can't trust yourself to breathe, it's very difficult to relax. If you can't relax, I can go into the astrology, which I did with Rebecca today. And if you ever see that video, you'll get more of the astrological background. But this is more about getting your teeth into it. Relaxation is crucial now. Forgiveness, letting go. Opening up so that your imagination has space to work and to be free and to work with you and you with it. That you have the time to imagine, to dream, to vision, and then bring it into practicality. So breathing. for those of you who know about human design, learn to trust the very core, the essence of your design. Now, to put it simply, that means if you're a manifester, peace is the core of who you are. It's not where you're trying to get to by being a good manifester. Peace is the core of who you are. Trust that. And when you separate and get angry, trust that, acknowledge it, recognize, acknowledge, forgive it, and then come back to peace and trust that peace is your point of real power. That's what makes things happen. Find the experience of peace, not the idea of peace, but how you experience peace within yourself. And learn, develop the habit of coming back and operating from there. Coming back. You're going to get distracted. It happens to everybody all the time. But coming back to that, realizing that is your foundation. If you're a generator, satisfaction. One of the greatest discoveries of my life was really getting to sense and feel satisfaction inside myself and to operate from there. That's what happens when I do these videos, when I do consultations, when I work with people, when I do presentation, all the stuff that I do. It's so satisfying. That's why I do it, you know. And because it's satisfying, the very best of me comes out, and the more satisfying it can become. I mean, this is a realization for me right here, right now. You can see me lighting up. The more I'm satisfied, the better the work is that I do. And therefore, in response, that's why I thank Derek and Rebecca for asking me about that email, because it's given me something to respond to. And frustration. Hey, it's a measure. Oh, I'm drifting off. Okay. Trust that frustration isn't going to get you anywhere. Acting it out, acting upon it is just going to make the thing worse. So acknowledge it. Recognize it, acknowledge it, forgive it, and come back to satisfaction. And when you operate from there, you'll do your best work. You'll put your energy into things that really matter, or if you're a manifesting generator, you'll put your energy into manifesting things that matter. If you're a projector, realize success is not something you're chasing, it's something that you are. And it exists within you as a real experience. And when you leave that chasing success or trying to get recognized, and you get bitter, and bitterness comes in so many subtle ways. It's not like, often it's like, it's a subtle one for projectors to get that. And to get that they are success, and to identify the feeling and the experience of success within them that's independent of what's going on out there. Identifying that is really a core to understanding not only who you are, but getting a sense of who other people are and how to operate with them. That you're developing a connection with them is about developing a deeper connection with your success, just as developing relationships with people, with you in the video, with my partner, with my business associates, with my clients. That's about deepening my connection with satisfaction. If I can trust that, then I start becoming trustworthy, because I can be trusted. When people break that, try and push me away from that, or disconnect from that themselves, or both, which often happens. I mean, I can feel, even talking about it, that sense of, It takes you away from being human. It takes you away from what's possible now and in the future. It takes you away from the essence of what you need to resolve those questions and those issues. Turn that chaos into creativity, into manifestation of something great, something that truly tells your story and contributes to a much greater story of humanities and human being on this planet and beyond as we start to go out there. If you're a reflector, delight. Don't chase this. When you're disappointed, first priority, get back to what you can trust. Life is delightful, no matter what it appears out there. It's an incredible gift. And when you die, at least then you'll recognize, wow, what did I do with that? Am I satisfied, or was it like a bit of a screw up? I have never heard a story of anyone regretting that they enjoyed life too much on their deathbed, but I've heard plenty of them of regretting they didn't really let it go, really open up, really learn to trust themselves and to build trust with others. That is such an incredible key. Now, a couple of other things. You need to recognize what is going on at the moment. There's a lot of attempts to destroy trust between people because they're hurt or they seek power, in media, in all sorts of business, in politics, and it's been amplified by social media and other media. And destroying trust is not just an attack on you and your world. Don't trust him, he's terrible. When you destroy trust, its purpose is not to just criticize or attack you even. Its purpose is to make you and all you stand for and the world that you live in disappear as though you and your world never existed. It's an attempt to create non-existence. And at its core, it's like denying you ever mattered, you ever existed. It's the ultimate loneliness. It's the ultimate abandonment. It's the ultimate despair when trust is destroyed. Now, I could go on and on about that, but I'll just leave that. And if you want to talk to me more about it, you know where to contact me. Creating distrust is pure negativity. And that can be healed, but it takes real courage to do that and real trust. Trust is the answer to distrust, not blind trust, consciously, courageously, turning negativity into true positivity in a healthy, balanced, realistic way, not just in an idealistic way. The key is that when you discover the roots of trust within yourself, then you actually matter. If you don't trust yourself, you can chant, this matters, that matters, all you like. but you don't matter to you. And everyone's life, when you discover the roots of trust within yourself and matter, then everyone's life you touch, no matter how small you touch it or how massively significant you are in their life, you give everyone a real chance to thrive. That's why we've named our company, Dan and I, One Insight to Thrive. Well, this is one insight. Discovering the roots of trust within yourself gives you and everybody the opportunity, a real chance to thrive. That negativity of distrust becomes the fertilizer. And as I said at the end of the email, and that's no shit, right? It's what brings health to the tree of life. By feeding the roots, by feeding the roots of your existence and developing trust in your existence and trusting that the world outside is not your enemy, despite what often appears. By stepping back and seeing this chaos and even the crazy things people have done and are doing right now are because they're in their core looking for the answers to those questions. They want to develop a healthy understanding of the gift of life and what that means to them and to others. Practically, healthy understanding, relax, open up, start to enjoy yourself and enjoy your life. Find out what's great about you. And the more you find that isn't great, that's bad, that's negative, find out what that's trying to tell you. See, pain is such an amazing thing. If you don't indulge in it, but you use it, you understand it and what it's trying to tell you. Look at your pain. That's a great place to find understanding. Don't indulge in it. Talk to it. Find out what it's telling you so that you can heal it. Healing pain, which is an indication that you're separating and you're longing to be back in connection with what's great about you. Like I said with the human design examples. When you heal that, it builds trust in your ability to make mistakes and then turn them into assets, positive assets, value, empowerment. You trust that you can fall down and you can get up. You can hate and turn that into love. Not patronizing love, real love. You can love yourself. You can accept your power and discover more and more of it. And that builds so much trust in you. Now, here's what the one last key. In the future, we're all going to do that in uniquely individual ways. This is why I love human design and some of the other things that I've worked with over decades. The numbers, the astrology, the Enneagram, the various other things, legends, because they give me a very particular skill, and that is the ability to customize, to treat each client as a unique individual, and to recognize that uniqueness, help them recognize it, help them get in touch with it. Not my idea of them. What I love is when they get in touch with it and explain it back to me more clearly than I'm trying to explain it to them or help them get in contact with. That's the goal. You are a unique individual that matters. You need a customized approach. And that's going to be the key to answering so many of these questions. Unique individuals empowered in their own unique way, then coming together and resolving their differences without either having to lose any of what they bring to the table. Now, there's a legend of that called the Arthurian legend. There was a seed of this. I call it a pilot program. They showed that it's possible, at least in legend. Now it's our time to make it happen, or to plant the seeds of it growing and blossoming in this world. And if you're here, you can contribute easily by enjoying yourself, turning this life into something that's real fun, a real passion, and that your gratitude for the gift is your greatest contribution. And that comes from loving yourself and helping others. So if I can help you with that in any way, let me know. Take this in, listen to it, let it settle with you, maybe come back to it again. I hope it truly, truly helps you. And let's get on with planting the seeds for the future. Been a pleasure talking to you. Talk to you again soon.